And I'm going to officially start the webinar. And again, we'll give everyone like 30 seconds to pop in, then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks, guys. Good morning. Thanks to those of you popping in. We're going to give it about 30 to 60 seconds for people to make their way in from the waiting room, and then we'll go ahead and get started with that presentation. Thanks for joining us bright and early. Good morning. If you're just popping in, we're going to give everyone about 30 seconds to come in from the waiting room, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get it kicked off. My name is Vicki McMurtry. I am the Executive Director of the Dana Point Chamber of Commerce. I am super delighted to welcome two team members from the Registrar of Voters with us today as part of our presentation, providing more information about the upcoming primary. The Registrar of Voters is responsible for conducting elections in the County of Orange, which is the 5th largest voting jurisdiction in the United States, with 1.8 million active registered voters. Our presenters today, Zoe Wilbur and River Rowe, both serve as community engagement specialists and have a lot of information to share with us about all the updated voting options available to the residents of Orange County. So River and Zoe, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Vicki. I will be facilitating the presentation today, and of course, Zoe will be my moderator. So if you do have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to engage in the chat. Otherwise, we will conduct a questionnaire at the end of the presentation. All right. I do believe I need screen sharing abilities. If I can please have access to that.
Sure, give me one sec.
Thank you.
Of course. There you go. You should be able to do it now.
Perfect. Then can I just get a thumbs up if you can all see my title screen here? Perfect. Okay, so the topics of what we're going to be going over today is just the history of voting, what we do as an agency. We're going to go through elections, the Voters' Choice Act, voter registration, language assistance, and then we'll conclude with the Voting Rights Act compliance report and our social media. But let's begin with some historical facts. As we all know, much of our democracy and republic is influenced from the ancient Greek and Romans, and this is no exception to the very long history of voting. Here in North America, the first use of paper ballots was in 1629 within the Massachusetts Bay Colony to select a pasture for the Salem Church. It is important to know that the Voting Rights Act was to reinforce the 15th Amendment, which was back in 1870, which is the right, and then of course, it's the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So this was 95 years after the 15th Amendment was passed, 45 years after the 19th Amendment was ratified in 1920. We would then later get amended in 1975. This section 203 was expanded to protect language minorities that have suffered a history of discriminatory practices. But the OC Registrar of Voters, we follow federal and state laws. The Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act of 1984, this promotes the fundamental right to vote by requiring access for elderly and handicapped individuals to registration facilities and polling places in a federal election. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, auxiliary aids and services, election day modification to the polling place, equipment modifications, and of course, poll workers. And then the Help America Vote Act of 2002, persons with disabilities must have the same opportunity for for participation, including privacy and independence given to other voters. And if, of course, you're asking yourself, why does voting matter? In some instances, one vote can really make all the difference. We like to mention that back in 1776, one vote gave us the English language instead of German. So we can only imagine how dramatically history could have changed had it gone the other way. And then, of course, in recently in 2020, we did have a Brea School Board of Trustee had a tied results, and those results were certified by rolling a pair of dice. Of course, we do like to mention as well that this was in a local election. We wouldn't see that on a federal election platform. But what is the Orange County Registrar of Voters? As Vicki even mentioned earlier, well, before that, our mission statement is to provide election services for the citizens of Orange County to ensure equal access to the election process, protect the integrity of votes, and maintain a transparent, accurate, and fair process. Of course, as Vicki mentioned earlier, with our statistics we have 1.8 million registered voters with about a resident population of just a little over 3 million. We do had online registration was new to the state of California beginning in October 2012. We do anticipate a further increase in online registration, especially when we see these numbers here. And of course, other tools that we utilize to update the registration records. This includes validation with the DMV, real-time processing with the state, and death record changes. But we are your elections department. We do prepare and carry out the election process. We maintain voter information. We verify all that information on the voter registration forms and make sure signatures match that each individual voter. We verify and certify petitions. So we look at the names of every person who signs a petition to make sure their signature matches their registration and that they live within Orange County and they're only credited one time. But now we are going to talk about, of course, the upcoming elections that we have two this year, the one on June 7th of the statewide direct primary, and then, of course, the statewide direct general election on November 8th. Both follow on a Tuesday, which has just been tradition throughout the United States. But every election is governed by critical deadlines that must be met. This is from the candidate filing to the start of vote by mail to the last day to register to vote. And of course, we've assembled all of these important dates into one location that you can view or print on our website. The types of elections, there's in general, 3 primary, general, and special. The primaries serve as narrowing down the field of candidates, whereas the generals serve to elect the candidates into office. And of course, we just like to remind everyone that special elections are held to fill vacancies created by death, resignation, or removal from office, as we just saw last year with the recall election for Governor Newsom. But changes in voting habits. So in 2018, when we sent out the vote by mail ballots to voters by request only, but when we mailed vote by mail ballots to all voters in 2020, majority of voters who had not voted by mail before returned their ballots via mail. Really, the significance of this is the voters find convenience and trust in our vote by mail system, just as we see based off our statistics here. And of course, under Orange County, we have now the Voters' Choice Act. In February 2019, this was a change for Orange County elections to run vote centers instead of polling places. So the biggest 3 changes about voting under this new model is that 1, every registered voter gets a vote by mail ballot. 2, voters can vote at any vote center in the county. And 3, voters are no longer tied to one day of voting. Ballot drop boxes are open for 30 days, and some vote centers will be open 11 days, including Election Day. There are 2 types of vote centers, and how these numbers are determined. For an 11-day vote center, it's for every 50,000 registered voters, and then for every 10,000 registered voters, there's a 4-day vote center. It all really depends on the area and districts. Our vote center service, we provide a very expanded service. You can register, update your address, or change your political party preference at these centers. You can get a replacement ballot. You may receive language assistance, which includes American Sign Language. I'll actually come back to the language assistance later on into this presentation. And of course, at these vote centers, we do have the use of accessible ballot marking devices. I would like to discuss with you some of our vote center security. So as you walk in, a staff will assist you with an electronic check-in. This database is shared among all vote centers and updated in real time. We implement a controlled chain of custody and tamper seals on all of our equipment. In addition, we keep our data in the same encryption method as law enforcement does. What are ballot drop boxes? So they're conveniently located throughout Orange County. They will open for 30 days prior to election day, and they're open for 24/7. On election day, the ballot drop boxes will close at 8 p.m. As I mentioned previously, all OC registered voters will receive a vote by mail ballot starting 29 days before the election day. If you do plan to return your vote by mail ballot, please return it to our official verified ballot drop boxes, which of course are located throughout the county. This is what they look like. They're made of military grade material, and they are just really a convenient way of delivering your ballot without having to stop into a vote center. But if you do decide to vote by mail, please remember to sign your return envelope. We just want to reinforce this, and your ballot must be postmarked on or before election day. For our AVBM, remote accessible vote by mail, this provides all voters the option to request a vote by mail ballot to be delivered electronically to their computer. This electronic ballot can be downloaded onto the voter's computer and then printed. Once printed, the RAVBM must be returned by using our standard options for returning a ballot. But of course, our expanded options, the Voters' Choice Act really just made it easier for more voting accessibility and options. At all of our vote centers, we should have in-person voting, curbside voting, vote by mail, drive-through ballot drop-off, pop-up voting, and remote accessible vote by mail. The drive-through voting, I'm sorry, I'll correct myself here, is only at a select few vote centers, which of course can be found using our search tool on our website. These are the 5 mandated federal languages that we translate into our ballots of English, Chinese, Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And California additionally includes mandated translated languages for Farsi, Gujarati, Hindi, Japanese, and Tagalog. For voter registration, to register to vote, there are, of course, requirements needed to be met. You need to be a U.S. citizen, at least 18 years old, residing in California, cannot be found in prison for the conviction of a felony, not currently found mentally incompetent by a court of law. You do not need to re-register for every election. There's only really 3 situations in which you need to re-register to vote. And this is if you have moved, so a change of address, if you have changed your name, and if you want to change your political party preference. We have 2 methods of registering. Paper registration forms are available at post offices, libraries, city halls, the DMV, and most other government agencies, and of course here at the ROV. And then if you wish to register online, you can go ahead and use the link that you would see on the screen. But if you ever have questions about your registration, you can always check it online. If you did happen to register online, you can check that status of voter registration after a period of 48 hours. And of course, we just want to reinforce that if you do have any difficulties checking the status of your registration, you can always contact us. We'll be more than happy to help you. For more on language assistance, federal law requires that we do provide the language support for those registered voters, as I showed in the translated ballots. For the Orange County Registrar of Voters, we stay committed to taking a proactive approach when complying with the language requirements. We do pride ourselves in maintaining a very comprehensive language assistance program in all covered languages mandated by the federal government. Every 2 years, we provide a Voting Rights Act compliance report. What this report entails is extended outreach plans for the language communities, and you can find these reports in our election library. Our traditional means of mass communication, we now interact via social media posts to engage voters with our marketing strategies. And the platforms that we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, I just want to include that you may visit us at our website at www.ocvote.gov. And here's our the website, and of course, the number that you can reach out to us by, including also our social media platforms. But this does mark the end of the presentation. And now I'm going to open up the floor for the questionnaire. And if there were any questions in the chat, and Zoe will be taking over the questions, and I will do my best to also assist her with these questions. But thank you so much.
Thank you, River. Zoe, did you want to pick up? Oh, there are some questions. So just a quick note to mention that the ballot box has been installed at the Dana Point City Hall. I saw it last night when I drove by. So for those of us here in Dana Point, a very convenient location.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the questions that came up. It's exciting to have some things to respond to. So let's see, our first question, very important question. What is the process for issuing a replacement ballot to ensure no duplication of voting takes place? For example, if a person has received and completed and deposited a ballot by mail, but secures a replacement ballot on the day of election and votes again, if a vote deposited in a ballot box 4 days prior, how do you confirm that the duplicate vote is not conducted? So I can clear some things up right away. Right away, there's no way to vote twice, and it's not considered a duplicate vote. That ballot, essentially, it's going to be conditional at that time, and once that is scanned, the ballot that was originally scanned, the one that was submitted vote by mail, becomes void. So that ballot is considered spoiled. It's just no longer your vote. The vote that was just cast now becomes your vote. And this is verified partly because we have the DMV signatures. So we're verifying those signatures, and only one person can have one signature that matches. And that can only go on one ballot if you are a registered voter. I hope that clears it up. Let's see. Does a voter receive a written confirmation of the vote they just submitted? I'm going to say no, you do not receive a written confirmation, although you do receive a receipt that you submitted your ballot if you do that in a vote center. There's also a ballot tracking program. So for example, if you vote by mail, I'm pretty sure that there is there'll be information sent to you and how you can track your ballot. So you'll actually see when we receive it, when it's being processed, and you can see when it's actually been officially counted. Who do we contact if we haven't received a vote by mail ballot? If you haven't received a vote by mail ballot, you can just go on our website and call our first number. Let's see. Thank you. I have a very helpful person back there. That number is going to be, and I'll type it in right here. It's going to be 714-567-7600. And they will be able to help you out with that. That would definitely be an error, as everyone is supposed to, every registered voter that is supposed to receive a vote by mail ballot. So make sure that you register before, let's see, the last date of registration for this election is May 23rd, although you can still conditionally register to vote if you miss that deadline. Let's see. What is the name of the manufacturers of Orange County voting machines? I don't have the answer right now, so I'm going to just take note of it. And if you can, please just be patient. We will get back to you or Vicky on that. And perhaps Vicky can share that information next meeting. That's a question for my manager. Transparently, I'm not sure if we can even share that because it is meant to be such a secured piece of equipment. Does the receipt show the candidate you voted for? No. Need assurance the name of the candidate I voted for is actually loaded into the system. I can, I don't want to give you any wrong information, so I will get back to you. So in a way that, my understanding of the question is that how do you know that the candidate you voted for is counted on your ballot in the voting system? I believe you can check that online once your ballot is counted, but again, I'll still look into that question. It's happening in some states. I would like assurance. Do not worry. I will get you your answer and we will assure you. We are really confident in our voting system here in Orange County. It's probably, I can confidently say this, one of the, if not the best and most secure in the nation. They really have done a good job. Yes.
Can you maybe speak to, like, did you have any instances of voter fraud in Orange County from the last election? Was there any major issues that popped up? Like, I think that's probably what people are hinting at. And so maybe that would be reassuring.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. No, we have not had any instances of voter fraud. If there are errors because of voter registration, like for example, if two people have the same name, and I think there was an example, this is just funny. So two people have the same name, first and last, lived in the same exact apartment building. And so one person received the other person's voter registration, vote by mail ballot, and cast that ballot. So, but that shows up in our system. It's like a big red mark because someone else comes in, they say, I haven't cast my ballot. It says, oh, you did. And so then there's a whole backtrack system, and then that's pretty much taken care of. So each voter gets to cast their ballot. Have the voting.
And sorry, Zoe, just to interrupt, but just to reassure on the voting fraud, if we do have suspicions of that, we do have partners with the DA, which they will take it up for investigation if it's within California. And if there is suspicions of voter fraud going across state lines, that will be taken upon an investigation with the Department of Homeland Security. So just to reassure everyone on that the necessary steps and processes are taken care of if that were to ever occur.
That is absolutely correct. Thank you, River. All right, I'm just reading over these questions. Let's see, candidate forums are being planned. How do we obtain the name of candidates? You can go on to our website, ocvote.gov, and they have the list of candidates. I believe it's also posted on the california.gov website. River?
And also just the names of those candidates will be in like the voter information guides that you will receive with your vote by mail ballots that 29 days prior to the election day as well.
If someone who voted and then they checked to see if their ballot was received, it did not show that they had voted. If it did not show that you had voted, then there's been an error, and you can call that number or walk right into a vote center and we'll get that sorted for you. Because at the end of the day, we're going to count your ballot and it's going to be yours because it's your vote and that's your civic right. You can sign up for ballot tracking. Yes, you can. Thank you, Vicki. This is a wonderful program. I use this myself, never had a problem. Is ballot harvesting allowed in Orange County? I am not familiar with the concept of ballot harvesting. I apologize. I'm a newbie. So I will also be looking into that question. I really appreciate these questions. I'm sorry I don't have the answers right up front, but I do want to verify to make sure you're getting the most accurate answers. And yes, thank you, Vicki. The condensed election calendar from the County of Orange, that link is also there. River, is there anything you want to add looking over these questions?
I think we did about cover all the questions as best as possible. Zoe, thank you so much. We do have one more question. I mean, we did have a hand raised, and Candace, we do apologize. Thank you so much for being patient. Is it necessary to sign your ballot outside if dropped in a voter box?
Can you clarify?
Sorry, the question is basically when you were talking about dropping ballots off, you were talking about how they needed to sign on the outside of the envelope. Now, is it necessary to sign on the outside of the envelope if you use the voter drop boxes?
Yes, it would. So if you do plan to drop it off at a ballot drop box, please go ahead and sign that returned envelope.
But otherwise, you would go into a voting center and vote and relinquish your mail-in ballot and just use something there.
So you could actually still sign your envelope and still return it to a vote center if you prefer to like hand it to a person rather than a ballot drop box. But then of course you can get a replacement ballot at the vote center if you do want to exchange it for a paper ballot as well.
But you're relinquishing your privacy of voting if you're signing your ballot on the outside with your return address. People know who it is and it is directed specifically to your address. And so it's not a secret ballot anymore. So basically the only way you can have a secret ballot is if you actually use and walk into a center and vote.
Candace, how do they know it's you that's voting if you don't sign it? Someone could have taken your vote. Your
No,
ballot
but then
from your
I'm
mailbox.
relinquishing my secret ballot. So I'm just making a statement that it's not secret anymore if you've signed it with your return address on it.
I think
So-
the who you vote for is the secret part, not the fact that you're voting, right?
Well, but they can open it up and they know what's inside because they match. So anyway, that's okay. That's just my opinion. And I'm just wondering because it was a different process, it sounded like, but not now, I guess. Okay, thank you.
River and Zoe, do you want to end with anything? Kind of like parting words?
I think we just want to say thank you to the Dana Point Chamber of Commerce for allowing us to come in and provide this service to you. Thank you for allowing us to provide this presentation. And we do appreciate all the wonderful questions that you all had. And we just hope upon both elections this year that you are able to get out there and cast your ballot, cast your vote. I mean, just under this new model, it really does grant more flexibility and convenience to the voters. So we do hope to see you out there and just engage in civic engagement. So, well, thank you so much. And Zoe, did you have anything as well?
No, I think that's about it. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm really just looking at the chat as things are coming up. Just see, you're only responding to the balances, not those attending.
So Zoe had shared a
Sorry.
message in the chat. So obviously I know that there were some questions that came through that she promised that she will get follow-up answers to.
Yes.
So she will send those to me and we can send out that additional information to all of you that registered for today's meeting. So obviously those are great questions. And obviously, since the Registrar of Voters did reach out about doing this presentation today, they're obviously very passionate about transparency and getting information out. So we'll share all of that with you guys. Thank you,
All
Zoe. Thank you, River, for being here today. You're super.
Thank you so much. And I know I just noticed like Suzanne made a comment that perhaps folks should volunteer to work the polls to get a feel for. We actually don't have a volunteer service at any of our vote centers in Orange County. All of our people who work at the vote centers are temporary employees for the county. So they do need to be 18 or older serving at these vote centers.
Fantastic. Are you guys still in need of those temporary workers to help out at vote centers?
I do. Has that changed?
Has that changed? Well, okay, maybe I jumped the gun there. My understanding is that what we really want to emphasize is that those who are working at the vote centers are trained and trusted, like they are completely under contract and oath. And I think that because of that, their goal is that it will be more secure. And I really do encourage that you visit the vote centers just to get a feel, to see the process. You can ask us questions and people can escort you through the entire process. You don't need to sign anything onto an envelope if you're there and submit it. You can just do it privately on your paper ballot.
As well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All
I'm
right.
gonna go
Thank
ahead
you so much,
get
and
going.
have a great
Thank
rest of
you.
your day.
You
Bye.
too. Fun fact, I work at the local voting centers. I did it for the last election and I will be doing it for the upcoming primaries and go through lots of training. In fact, I just completed my online training and will be going through my in-person training next weekend. So if you guys ever have any questions about that process, feel free to ask me and I will give my very best answers. But I am not an official rep from the Registrar of Voters. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But I do encourage you, if you do have questions or if you're concerned about the process, the best thing that you can do is sign up to work it because you learn a lot. Moving right along, we're going to go to our update from Congressman Mike Levin, and Representative Terry Van Horn is on the call with us and we'll give an update.
Well, good morning, Vicki, and thank you for the presentation and the condensed election calendar. I really appreciate that because it's hard to keep track of all this information. These days, everything has changed this year with the new districting and whatnot. So I just bookmarked it. I'm going to keep that handy so I can answer questions for constituents as they call. Okay, so moving right along, as we speak, the Congressman Levin's hosting the Secretary of the Department of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, on site at Songs, where the Congressman and the Secretary will be holding a press conference. They'll be discussing a number of issues that have to do with nuclear waste, but specifically, they're going to be talking about consolidated interim storage. And I don't have all the details because that is an ongoing conference right now, but please leave your information in the chat and I will get back to you on any details that come out of the meeting. Surely there will be press on it, so I'm sure it'll be in the papers somewhere. And they are also expected, DOE is expected to make an announcement of an approved charter for a new spent nuclear fuel subcommittee, which will better facilitate real-time feedback from the public on spent fuel issues. And it'll also highlight the department's commitment to addressing our nation's spent nuclear fuel challenges, of which there are many. And then yesterday, the Congressman hosted Veterans Administration Secretary Dennis McDonough on a tour of multiple VA sites in our district. And among the many subjects they discussed was HR 7105, which Congressman Levin led, and it included many provisions that allow the VA to provide more services to the homeless veterans, improve the HUD voucher program, and the transition assistance program for service members returning to civilian life. And they also toured the Rosecrans National Cemetery to visit U.S. Army Captain Jennifer Moreno's burial site, if you recall, which I don't know if you do, but the Congressman was instrumental in getting the San Diego VA Medical Center site renamed in her honor. And I do believe that is the first site that is named after a woman of color. And also, if you have been following the Congressman's Twitter, he was working last week on, we did a few videos concerning the appropriations bill passing. We brought a little over 13.57 million just to the cities of South Orange County for the community funded projects last year, FY 2022. So we got San Clemente, we got the Shoreline Project, the Doheny Connectivity Project, some money for veterans mental health at Saddleback College, and the DSAL. We got 2.4 million for the DSAL, and we're already working on FY 23 right now, working with all the cities in South County, along with the County of Orange on the various projects that they have in mind for funding for FY 23 to improve the quality of life in our district. And lastly, I have some news on the constituent of the month, but I'm not allowed to say anything because we're not going to announce him till tomorrow. The Congressman will be meeting with him, but he is a San Juan Capistrano resident. So I was happy to hear that we got a constituent of the month in South Orange County. And with that, Vicki, I will turn it back over to you. And oh, by the way, I feel very good knowing that you are a trained voter person, and that gives me hope. Thank you for stepping up and volunteering for that.
Literally my pleasure. Also devastated to learn that I'm not constituent of the month. Is that what you're saying? So I'll have to try harder.
It could
for next
happen.
month.
It's
could. I'm
still a possibility.
I'm holding out. I really am. Thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate it. Up next, we've got Candace Burroughs from Senator Pat Bates' office.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, the voter situation was, I wanted to ask who the new voter czar is. You take Neil Kelly. Who took Neil Kelly's place? Do you know, Vicki? Anyone here?
Bob
Yeah, his name's
Page.
Bob Page. Correct.
Bob Page. Oh, okay. All right. I didn't have that anywhere, but anyway, sounds like they're getting off to a good start. We'll see how things go in June, and hopefully they'll run very smoothly, like they have in the past here in Orange County. Well, there's a lot going on up in Sacramento. Senator Bates is working very hard, being involved in the number of committees that she's on and being vice chair of 7 of these committees. She's working very hard on your behalf. She spent a lot of time since we last met, working on public safety bills, and 3 of those bills she's focusing again this year. I've discussed her on fentanyl, and it's been a very trying time for her. She had to stand for 2 hours delivering her requests for these 3 bills, and 2 of them got shot down immediately. SB 1060, which she has introduced for the 5th time, which is supported by the Orange County Sheriff and the Riverside DA and others. And they don't seem to want to approve anything that has to do with expanded sentencing for people who are selling fentanyl. And so anyway, moving on to SB 1053, which is also an enhancement for those who sell the drugs to people who die. And that was shot down, and that was sponsored again by San Diego, Orange County, and Riverside people, and DAs and sheriff's departments. And then SB 904 is still hanging on by a thread, but it's a clarification of changing the definition of fentanyl to a controlled substance, and it will be reviewed again next week. So the senator was very passionate in her responses to her committee, the Health and Safety Committee in the Senate. Fortunately, I'm sure Tim will tell you this, but Laurie Davies was successful in getting her fentanyl bill, which is almost identical to Senator Bates's, approved by committee. So for those of us here in the community, perhaps there will be light at the end of the tunnel for some of these fentanyl bills. Just depends upon who's listening to them. Senator Bates also introduced SB 1108, which is retail theft, and that is to try to get Proposition 47 changed. But once again, the Senate committee is kind of pushing her off, but we're going to be hearing a little bit more about that in the future. But she stood up for our professionals, our professional police and sheriff's departments when the committee was extremely rude about talking about our people and saying that they're using this as an excuse not to do their job, which is so untrue. SB 1333 will be, that's for sexual and violent predators, and finding and notifying the public on where they're going to be housed once they're released. That will come before in another week. The senator will be focusing on that. There's been a big push by the senator along with her Republican constituents on funding needed for mental health illness, and it's just been unprecedented over the years that we've ignored this, and so they're asking for significant funding to get mental health services and facilities taken care of and provided into the communities. There's multi-millions of dollars that are being tossed around in this budget excess here to be used for this. So they're hoping that that will have some positive going forward. The Republicans are looking at this a little differently than the governor is, and so there's a bit of pushback. In addition, I don't know, Vicki, if you shared the Cal Chamber list of job killer bills. There's a whole litany of job killer bills that have come out that have been notified, and I highly suggest that you share those with your members, because there's so much going on in that regard with things that are important to the business owners in the area. There have been some second, I had dropped this. There's been some pushback up at the state on some of the bills that were introduced that had to do with our current situation with the pandemic and COVID-19. And so public outcry has helped. And SB 871, which was the mandate for schools, has been rescinded. The parental consent bill is under judicial review. It's been put on hold. So thank you to those who've been involved in that. And the COVID testing for continuing for students and teachers, that's been pushed off until April 27th. SB 1464, which is requiring the sheriffs to enforce the mask mandate rules, that's been postponed. AB 1993, which requires employees to be vaccinated, that's been held also. And then AB 2098, which is the disciplinary contact for physicians in supposedly giving out misinformation, that's been watered down right now. If it goes and is passed, it would be considered perhaps a misdemeanor by the medical department. So constituents in the communities are waking up, listening to some of these egregious bills that are being presented in Sacramento and speaking up. The senator sent out to her constituents a heads up on fentanyl and how dangerous it is. And I just want to quickly state that we received a really interesting, among others, many others, positive responses from this mailer that she did from a constituent in Dana Point who spent 25 years in the FBI and commended her for letting the community know about this terrible drug and how important it is for people to be aware of it. And he was extremely complimentary to the senator because he basically is saying that no one is really talking about this. And she's one of the few legislators and leaders that is talking about this, this awful substance. So we thank you. We're here to help you. And please don't hesitate to give us a call if you have any questions on anything. Our phones ring off the hook daily, but we're here to help. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Candace, for your super thorough presentation. We appreciate it. Up next, we have Tim Kearns from Assemblywoman Laurie Davies' office.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you, Candace, for covering the COVID stuff that takes a lot off of my update here. So I just want to talk about a couple bills that the Assemblywoman is working on that are moving forward and getting some good press. So One of the first ones is reforming some of the current laws in the states, and that's allowing now testing kits for pills, specifically pills such as fentanyl, to be tested and making those testing kits available to parents. Right now, they're classified as drug paraphernalia, and we want to remove that from the current laws to allow parents access to the tools that are going to help potentially save lives. And so that current bill has moved through the Assembly and is now awaiting a hearing in the Senate. So we're excited for that. And then one more that's awaiting a hearing in the Senate is a bill for veterans that gives them the opportunity to sue for treble damages when they are victims of unfair or deceptive business practices. Currently, that's only eligible for seniors and disabled individuals. So this would add an amendment in to allow veterans those same benefits. We have two other bills that are maybe worth mentioning. Another one focused on drug use and drug prevention would be allowing anybody that's on probation from a crime involving controlled substance. We would require them to take an education or a counseling course about the dangers of the controlled substances as a condition of the probation, similar to what would happen with a DUI, where you'd have to take classes after. We would enforce that on anybody currently serving under probation. And then finally, in response to the oil spill in Orange County, the Assemblywoman has been working on a bill that would require the owner or operator of a large merchant vessel to notify state and federal authorities if they hit or they think they may have hit an oil pipeline in state waters. We're excited for this bill. It's passed two policy committees and now awaiting a hearing in appropriations. We are still waiting for some relief on the gas tax. Or gas prices in general. It's been over 40 days since we've been promised relief by the governor, and the Assemblywoman, along with the entire Republican Assembly caucus, are working hard to make sure that this issue stays up in front. This plays into the affordability of here in Orange County, and we're making this a top issue. The Republicans, including the Assemblywoman, are taking a strong stance on removing the gas tax, suspending it temporarily, which would immediately overnight take off just over 51 cents per gallon. So we're looking at immediate relief for Orange County and the state as a whole. And then one last bill, it's kind of been the hot subject in our office, and I'm sure Candace has received countless calls regarding it, and that's Assembly Bill 2223. Which focuses on perinatal. That's the catchword that everyone's kind of talking about right now. It's reproductive health is what it's listed under. The Assemblywoman has opposed it already when she had a vote. It just passed through the Assembly Health Committee. There is, for anybody that's following this bill, there is an amendment in the works to reclassify what is meant by the word perinatal. But we are awaiting what the next steps are on for that. So hopefully by our next update, I'll have a clear idea of where that's going. I'll include my contact information in the chat below. If you have any questions about the Assemblywoman's bill or anything from the statewide side, I'd be happy to correspond with you guys. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, Tim. Appreciate you. And up next, we've got from Supervisor Lisa Bartlett's office, Sergio Prince.
Thank you, Vicki. It's great to see everybody. At our last Board of Supervisors meeting, Supervisor Bartlett and her colleagues unanimously approved several items that focus on providing supportive behavioral health services to our veterans community. While these services are not new to the county, their success serving veterans and military-connected individuals and their family members have been critical, and we're pleased to see these services continue. These services include addressing barriers to access behavioral health services, early intervention for veteran college students, short-term individual and family counseling, peer support, case management, and referrals and linkages to community resources. The board also approved the continuance of multiple emergency shelters throughout the county, specifically Friendship Shelter, Pathways of Hope, and Mercy House, all of which help engage with individuals and families experiencing homelessness, providing them with emergency shelter and other essential services to work toward securing permanent housing. Mercy House also provides rapid rehousing services for households experiencing homelessness. Similarly, renewals of contracts that provide homeless bridge housing services were also approved. The primary goal of these services is to provide temporary housing, as well as housing coordination and navigation to assist clients in acquiring permanent housing. Orange County is doing a great job providing services to veterans and individuals experiencing homelessness, and we look forward to seeing the successful outcomes of these ongoing services. Also, at the end of the last Board of Supervisors meeting, Supervisor Bartlett adjourned the meeting in memory of John Mansour, the previous owner of John's Fish Market down in Dana Point Harbor. And we're sorry to have lost him. And we will be presenting his family with the adjournment in memoriam signed collectively by the Board of Supervisors. Something that should be of interest to Dana Point, in addition to serving on the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Bartlett also is on the Orange County Transportation Authority Board of Directors. And as such, we're pleased to report that OCTA has made approximately $3 million in competitive funding available through its environmental cleanup program. Qualifying projects reduce the impacts of water pollution related to transportation by removing litter and debris before it reaches the ocean and other waterways. Cities, like the city of Dana Point and the County of Orange, can propose projects through the program, which is funded by OCGO, Orange County's half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements, also known as Measure M. The project applications are due by June 16th. And all this information is in our newsletter, which will go out Friday. So if you want more details, feel free to check out our newsletter. If you don't receive our newsletter, I'll leave my information in the chat box, and you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to sign you up, or you could go directly to the supervisor's website. In addition, OCTA is seeking qualified volunteers to serve on the OCGO Taxpayer Oversight Committee. Oversight Committee members help keep an eye on tax dollars by monitoring OCTA's use of OCGO funds and ensuring that all revenue collected from OCGO is spent on voter-approved transportation projects. Applications are due by May 2nd, which is coming up soon. So if you or anyone else is interested, please feel free to check out our newsletter and get more information. Let's see, on May 3rd, Supervisor Bartlett will be hosting a blood drive in San Juan Capistrano in partnership with the American Red Cross, and that information is also in our newsletter. And then on May 24th, she will be partnering with the American Red Cross to do a blood drive in Corona del Mar. Let's see. Looking forward to attending the Outer Reef preview next week. That sounds very exciting. And then looking forward to attending the Dana Point State of the City on May 11. But the week prior, on May 5, Supervisor Bartlett is hosting her State of the 5th District luncheon, which will be held at the Crown Valley Parkway Community Center in Laguna Niguel. And we're partnering with various chambers in the 5th District, including Dana Point. I want to thank Vicki and her chamber for being an outstanding participant. We actually have a Zoom call in about 5 minutes to talk about that. So if we're not over by then, I'll be logging off and seeing you later, Vicki. But that's all I got.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sergio. I will be on that for sure. All right, up next, we've got Jamie Tell from the City of Dana Point.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'll keep mine short and brief. So just wanted to let everyone know that the City Council adopted the city's new strategic plan at Tuesday's meeting. So that's on our website. It's basically, this plan is going to have to change every couple of years depending on the needs of the community. So it is on our website now if anyone wants to check that out. A couple of fun things going on in the city. We are looking for volunteers to be a habitat helper for our new monarch butterfly habitats. We have a couple of planting days coming up, one on April 23rd, May 14th, and May 28th. We are also recruiting for a new Arts and Culture Commissioner. That information should be up on our website later this week, so maybe today or tomorrow. And the trolley is coming back on Friday, May 27th. The updated map and schedule is on our website. And then we'll have all of the flyers and everything for businesses once we get them printed. Apparently there's a national paper shortage right now, so it's really hard to get paper everywhere. So we'll try to get that to you guys as soon as possible. And then lastly, what Sergio said, our State of the City is on May 11th. So tickets are on sale on aboutdanapoint.com. And if you have any questions about it at all, please feel free to reach out to me. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Jamie. So with the paper shortage, there is the app for the Dana Point Trolley, right? We can still download that.
Yep.
There is a rumor, maybe I started it, that maybe the Dana Point Chamber is going to be organizing some sort of little kickoff happy hour trolley happening. So everyone stay tuned for that. You know, as a way to celebrate the trolley, is not just because I want to go to happy hour, obviously. That's not selfish at all. All right, last but not least, we have Mr. Jeff Bott from the Toll Roads.
Thank you, Vicki, and hello, everyone. Good to see you all. So last week, the American Society of Civil Engineers awarded us with 2 awards for a couple of projects we worked on. Project of the year was for the Oso Parkway Bridge, which opened January of last year. And the other one was for our cattle grazing pilot program for weed abatement on our environmental site near Cook's Corner. I know Vicki's a big fan of our cattle grazing program, but sadly they did deny your request to put the Dana Point Chamber logo on the cattle. So sorry about that. The traffic cone, the large traffic cones that we installed on the 241 northbound and the 91 eastbounds have really helped with the queue jumping, the cutting in line with the cars. That was a safety issue for a long time. That's working tremendously until we start on the 241-91 Express Connector project next year. We'll also see you May 11th at the State of the City. Your Mayor, Joe Miller, is the Vice Chair of the 241 Toll Road Board. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good presentation. I'm also equally as big of a fan of Cook's Corner as I am the cattle. So, you know.
Of course you are.
This webinar is not painting me in a good light. If we're being honest, it's all my fault. Anyway, so that is our presentation. We have hit the 10 o'clock hour. So again, everyone's gone over the many events coming up. I also want to remind you, in addition to the trolley kickoff, the State of the City, the State of the County, all the fun things, we also have Redo Market coming up on Sunday, May 1st, which Supervisor Bartlett is a sponsor, as well as the City of Dana Point. So hopefully we'll see you out at that, because we are helping run all the, again, doesn't make me look good, the drink stations. The Dana Point Chamber is helping with the drink stations. So you'll see us out and about that day. But I hope everyone has a good rest of your day, and thank you for joining us this morning. Bye-bye.